People who've seen nice people finally snap. What happened? I had just started high school and there was a new kid. I was from a 1 primary/1 high school town, so all the kids already knew each other. He was a giant aboriginal kid who was quiet with no friends, so my friend and I befriended him. We always chatted to him, and he was so lovely, always softly spoken, and generally just so nice. Like holding doors open for us, and bashfully smiling when we would go out of our way to be friendly to him. Anyway, he started getting picked on by the bad boy of our grade relentlessly. One day he snapped and beat him up with a garbage can and was expelled, and I never saw him again. I mentioned this in another thread. Samoan friend. Happiest, most friendly guy you ever want to meet. Some guy said something about his sister and of course it made him mad. My friend went after him and caught him. Punched about 3 times and we realized he was going to kill him. It took 3 of us normal sized guys to hold his arm back from hitting the guy one more time. We told the other to run, like run fucking now. He did. Our friend was mad at us for a while for stopping him, then he went home. The next day it was as if nothing happened. He just went back to being a super nice guy. PS. I forgot a couple days later our friend's big brothers were looking for that same guy that got the crap beat out of him. I don't think they found him, but never did see him again. This woman, Mary, I worked with was always pleasant and cheerful, said hello in the lunchroom, and was generally liked. She worked in finance in special projects. She said she wanted to retire in a few years, and she had been working there for 15 years. Her boss started pressuring her to complete our annual budget report faster, but this thing is huge and comprehensive and a figurative beast. Mary told the boss it would be ready in a couple of weeks. Per the usual schedule point, the boss said that it needed to be completed within 1 week to give to the higher ups. Mary said it wasn't possible. Boss emailed Mary plus CC a bunch of coworkers and the assistant managers, calling Mary out for a poor work ethic and for making the department look bad. Mary said it wasn't possible and didn't appreciate being bullied. She put in her notice to retire by the end of the week, leaving her boss high and dry. She was the only one who could do the budget report in a timely manner, so the department was double fucked. Back in 5th grade, I was super lucky to have the elementary school's favorite teacher. Every single student loved her. My class was always super loud and annoying. We were working on some assignment before PE, and everyone was passing her off. She was only allowing students to go out if they finished the assignment. My slow ass was unfortunately one of the last kids in the room. This one student, who was a god-awful and annoying shitbag kid, was being way over the top. My teacher got up, put her hands over her ears and just started screaming, "Shut the duck up. Just shut up. Shut up. Shut up." And she just stomped out of the room still screaming with her hands covering her ears. All of us just sat there in horror. Couple of kids just left to go to PE, and I sat there just trying to finish the assignment. Our principal came into the room a few minutes later just telling the rest of us to go out to PE, but she made the shitbag kid stay in the room with her. He was moved into the other 5th grade teacher's room after this. She was completely normal and fine after coming back. And there was nothing else that went wrong for the rest of the year. Just worked her ass off and made all of us love her by her caring soul and all of that fun stuff. But that moment completely traumatized me. A long time ago, I used to do call center tech support for fairly complex issues. A really nice, quiet guy went through the same training class. He talked if you talked to him, but never went out of his way to chat. Right after training, the call center changes a ton of stuff. We start getting squeezed on the amount of time we can do documentation, how much research time we have, just metrics in general. It was utter bullshit, because the favorites got to go on smoke breaks as often as they wanted with the managers. We'd essentially be punished for that, because we had to keep the average numbers in a certain area. He did all the right things. Talked to his manager, talked to their manager, then 2 hours. It kept getting worse, plus enforced overtime. Then he got a super long call. He was on it at least 2 hours about a complex issue, and the customer was just straight up abusing him, but he had to take it because the managers wouldn't give permission for him to hang up. And they were basically screaming at him to resolve this issue and get to his next call, but we couldn't end calls. The customer had to One day he just stood up, stepped onto his chair, then onto his desk, threw his headset on the desk and sort of growled something like "duck this" quietly. He looked around, staring people in the face, especially the people who took those long breaks and the managers. Then he walked out and no one ever saw him again. Everyone was super quiet and afraid to move or say much of anything. My best friend had lost his mom to murder a few months prior when we were in the 10th grade. Somehow he had pulled himself together just enough to start going back to school. I don't know how he handled it with being an only child and growing up without a father. His mom was all he had. A kid that thought he was popular, that got on everyone's nerves. Cracked wise to my friend's face about his mom's death. What he said isn't exactly sure. My friend threw him on the ground and punched him in the face multiple times. The end result was a broken nose, a broken left orbital, and my friend got kicked out of school. We were very grateful he taught him a lesson, but saddened it had to come at such a high cost. She was an assistant manager and was known for being soft-spoken. At a manager meeting, one of the general managers, who was known for being a total jackass to everyone, was going off on how every store should be run. Well, she snapped. "You have the highest turnover rate out of any store in the district. You can't keep employees for more than 6 months before they just quit, all saying you were the problem. Maybe you should take that advice you're giving us and you sit on yourself." Edit. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up, and thank you so much for the silver. So for anyone who's invested in what happened next, she put in her 2 weeks. Not even 3 days later, the manager who she yelled at was transferred to a different location out of that district. The store he managed has since bounced back and has been doing very well. An acquaintance of mine, Daryl, was always a quiet kid that bothered nobody. Given that he was 6 feet 5 inches and 250 pounds, he played football and was generally respected and liked. One day in Spanish class, the class clown was making his usual rounds talking shit until he got to this one girl, Nelly. He never really made fun of people of the other 6, so everyone around him was telling him to fuck off, but he kept going and finally got to the birthmark on her neck that was very large and dark red. He told her that it dropped her a few numbers down. At this point, just about everyone and their grandma in the class was standing up about to rush him, save for Daryl and a few others, until Daryl got up, waltzed over to the class clown, picked him up by his hair, and said, and I quote, "If you don't shut the fuck right now, I'm going to put you through that fucking wall." Points to the nearest wall. He dropped the clown and walked away. A few seconds later, with his band of merry men behind him, the clown tries to jump Daryl in the middle of the class. Daryl then proceeds to elbow him across the room, run over, pick him up by the shoulder, and put his hand through the drywall right next to the clown's head. Security by this point was called, and both Daryl and the clown were arrested, with both only getting off with fines for damages. Every day, the spackle patch where the hole used to be humbles me every day. One of my middle school friends, whom we'll call Bob, was about a half foot shorter than everyone else. Everyone was around 5 feet. He was an interesting, in a good way, dude. Interested in learning, played video games, was great to hang out with, but he looked scrawny. Didn't look like he could hurt anything, if I'm being honest. For some context to the story, our gym teacher was an asshole. Gave nicknames, some good, some bad, to everyone. He was always sarcastic, always berating everyone, speaking down to us instead of encouraging them. One day the gym teacher says something about Bob's mom, which Bob's mom had fibromyalgia and some other conditions making her weak and unhealthy, not by choice, and something in Bob snapped. Bob completely took down this 6.5-foot monster gym teacher. Gym teacher looked like he stood no chance at that time. They were quickly pulled apart, and Bob got expelled and had to move school, while the gym teacher was fired for fighting a student and being an overall asshole. Edit. AWW my first silver. Thank you. In middle school, my 6'2" gentle giant friend, who is literally the nicest guy you'd ever meet, got teased about his mom by some short popular kid. My friend no hesitation picked him up by his shirt and slammed him against the locker at eye level and said, "Never talk about my mom like that." One of my favorite memories of him.